Okay, you guys, welcome back everyone to week 2 of our enrollment narrative challenge. I know I've gotten great feedback from week 1 and I've had people already utilizing it. Personally, myself, I pulled out my notes and I started to rephrase the things that I was saying, and I started implementing the things that we talked about last week. And it really made such a difference, and it felt like the feel of the call. And when I explained my commitment to, helping them throughout our conversation, I found that I could help them with whatever they establish are their goals. And I asked them, how does that sound? I never had anybody respond in a way that wasn't absolutely excited or positive, feeling like, okay, finally someone's here to listen to me and see if they can help me. And so I really liked that, and kind of turning over the question to how does it sound. So I'm excited to have Chris back this week, and we're going to dive in a little bit more. So I'm just going to stop talking and let Chris take over.
Hey, well, thanks, Melina. I am so stoked to be on here. And I saw that there were some people that actually already put the framework to use in the narrative and had some enrollments. So I'm just going to check on one thing really quick here. And then we also have put together the script, the document. So I hope all of you have that. If not, you can go to the Facebook group and get that. That should be really helpful to kind of give you something to follow. Is there anyone I know Melina has been able to use it. Is there anyone that's on the call that's been able to use any aspect of the enrollment narrative okay, Bree, would you mind sharing what you've used?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I have actually done a Facebook, I'm in the middle of it, doing a Facebook party group instead of a Zoom class, because I was finding it really hard to get everybody on at the same time. And I think here in New Zealand, people are kind of over the Zoom. So it's got a series of slides where I used my introduction. So already from the information last week that we got, I was able to edit the text, and instead of saying, hi, I'm Bree and this is my story, I was able to do the whole, hi, I'm Bree, I'm really well known for helping others and what I want to be able to do for you, etc., using that script from last week. And I had 2 people private message me saying, wow, I've never, I'm really excited to do this. I've never heard people speak about it like this. I thought it was going to be another one of those sales pitches. So I was like, yes, it's working. So I joked with Melina the other day and I said, okay, I have to stop here now because I haven't finished the rest of Chris's training, so I don't know what to say next. But
that's awesome.
Super excited. So that reaction was awesome.
That's great. Yeah. Even just if the only thing you implement from the enrollment narrative is the framing up, that first thing, if you just frame up the call differently and show up like a leader, look, here's what I'm known for, and here's what I believe more than anything, and here's my intention for our time together. You could even do that on, like you said, Bree, on a Facebook Live. That doesn't have to be one-on-one. Here's my intention for our time together. My intention in this presentation is to add massive value to you and your life. And here's how I plan on doing that. And here's how I know how to do that. So just the framing up of the call and how you introduce yourself and how you
here's a couple. I'm working on the last
amazing
one.
Oh, looks like we have, that's okay. So Lisa, you said yes on the chat. Lisa, would you be willing to share something that worked for you or something you were able to do, implementing the enrollment narrative? Not sure Lisa's last name. Lisa Y. Oh, there you are. I think you're on mute, Lisa.
Hi.
Got it.
Yeah, sometimes my camera works, sometimes it doesn't.
You're good.
Unknown. So for sure, I use the framework that you gave us to basically, I guess, solidify my intention before I even talk to them, because that's I think is really important for me. And I actually had my enrollment kits kind of out in front of me, and I'm like, okay, so my intention is to help them with, whichever way that is going to work for them. And I just had them all out there, kind of like a buffet. And as we're talking, I started just mentally narrowing down which ones for them. And I gave them the ticket options. And normally I kind of lay out more than just the two. But I just said, I'm just going to have confidence that I'm picking the right one that I think will serve them the best. And it worked, and it worked twice. So I'm
good for you. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's like just like that. Like, I'm going to really get clear on my intention going into the call, realizing like A, reminding myself I'm a leader, right? B, reminding myself like I've arrived, and I have no preset agenda other than to serve them, make a difference for them wherever that goes. And I love that it actually had you shared less, Lisa, right? Because sometimes we're so concerned about making the sale, right? It's like, well, I've got to share a lot with them. And it's like, no, I love that it had you shared less. And here's something that's funny. Earlier, I was talking with someone about the enrollment narrative that's interested in hiring us privately to come in and do some consulting and help them script out all their sales processes and stuff. And they were like asking me to explain the benefit of it. And I said, well, here's how I view sales a lot of times. I view sales as there's people that actually want to buy from us. They want what we're offering. And it's almost like we're asking them to walk through our house, and we're seeing how many coffee tables we can possibly throw in front of them for them to trip over. Like, it's like, just let them walk through your house. Like, just go move it, make it easy for them to come through your house. That's what we do in sales. Is like, we make it so hard for people that want to say yes to actually say yes. And I know we don't think of it that way a lot of times, but the more information we throw at them and the more options we give them is like, you're just throwing coffee tables in front of them for them to trip over, to the point where they finally get so tired and exhausted. They're like, yeah, I'm just gonna have to think about this, right? Like, let me get back to you, right? And so I love that you're like, no, like, and it had you shared less. It's amazing. I know that Tiffany had a win that she posted in the Facebook group. And I don't know if you guys saw mine and Tiffany's dialogue in the Facebook group, but I asked her like, what was different between this time and last time? And I know, Tiffany, you're on here, so chime in anytime if you want. But Tiffany basically said, usually my mindset is like, okay, I'm listening, and then I'm going to find out what you want, and I'm going to offer you the thing, and like, let's just get this over with from a good place. Like, I want to help you, but like, let's just get to the point. And she said, but because I took the time to actually connect, it made it so much easier for me to confidently tell them, like at the end, like, yeah, I can help you and ask for the sale, because I'd like really listened. And then the thing though that I wanted to point out that Tiffany said the most, she said, it just had this kind of flow to the conversation that usually isn't there. And I said, yeah, that is the goal of enrollment, is that your enrollment conversations don't actually feel like an enrollment. They feel like a conversation.
Yeah, it was really awesome. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I'm in my car. I'm driving to gymnastics practice.
Perfect.
But yeah, it felt really good, and it felt like a deep conversation, which usually I'm like, okay, let's get to the point, let's get this done. And it took a lot longer, but that's because the person there was really talkative, not because I was, I had changed the narrative. But yeah, no, it was really great. And I felt a really deep connection to them that I normally am just like, okay, that's enough. Let's go.
Yeah. No, it's
so
awesome.
yeah, it was great.
Yeah, that is like, imagine if every enrollment conversation we had didn't actually feel like an enrollment. It just was a conversation. I'm like, it's just another human being that I'm connecting with.
Yes.
Lena, what were you going to say?
Oh, I was just going to let you know she was unmuting. I saw her driving and trying to unmute. And so I knew she wanted to share a little bit. Okay.
So I'm going to dive right back into where we left off last week. And I believe where we left off last week was we had left off at their story. Is that correct? Okay. And we were just transitioning into, so the first part of the framework is the framing up. The second part of the framework is their story. And like we said, just their story is who they are as a human being. And the third part of the framework that we're now going into is the possibility and the cost. And in my opinion, their story is most important for connection. This part that we're going to talk about today, the opportunity and the cost, is the most important for them taking action. So again, just because someone shares their story with me doesn't mean they're going to take action, but it does mean that we can start to create a connection. This is the part that has someone like move to action and really like want to do something about it. And so here's what's interesting.
Their story is most
when you're getting to know someone's story, right? You've been talking with them and like connecting with them and getting to know them a little bit. You're going to want to then transition, because like Tiffany said, sometimes you got to be careful with this, because sometimes you ask someone like, hey, tell me a little bit about you. And they're like, really? no one ever wants to know about me. No one's wanted to know about me for like 7 years, right? And then they'll just like go like, because it's so therapeutic and healing to have someone actually care about your story and want to connect with you. But you can't let that go on for like an hour, because that's not going to serve them or you. Like I tell people, like, we have time to get to know their whole story once they're like enrolled and a client, but we need to know something about them so we can connect with them, and not just use it as a tactic, but like to genuinely connect with them. But then we might have to like transition them into the next part. We say, hey, thank you so much for sharing that with me and letting me know a little bit more about you and who you are. Now I'd love to find out like where it is like you want to go, right? Like now I want to find out like, where is it that you want to get with like you and your family? And like, what's the vision you want to create for you and your family? Okay. Now here's what's interesting. When you ask most people, now, how many of you do something similar to that already? Like how many of you in your enrollment calls will ask something similar around like goals or vision or where they want to go? Okay. Most of you are already doing that, right? But and man, why don't we have all these beautiful people showing us their faces? I love when I do calls with mostly women, because if I ask anyone like, hey, turn your cameras on, they're like, oh my gosh, I gotta go grab a hat, I gotta go brush my hair, it's like, no, just turn your cameras on. We're fine. We're all family here. We're all family in doTERRA. So what's interesting though is if I ask you, hey, like, so now tell me, like if I'm talking with Marcy and I'm like, hey, so Marcy, tell me where it is you want to go. Tell me like, what's the vision you want to create for you and your family? Marcy's actually not going to tell me what's truly possible. She's going to tell me what she thinks is possible. And there's a massive difference between what's truly possible and what people think is possible. Does that make sense? And most people are going to tell you the bare minimum of like what their goal is and what they can see. And I think one of the most profound things that you can do for someone in an enrollment situation is you can actually help get them present to what's truly possible, not what they think is possible. So for example, if I was asking Marcy, okay, so Marcy, like, so tell me, where did you want to go? Marcy may not be like, well, man, what I'd really love to do is I'd love to learn enough. Like I'd love to earn some supplemental income. Well, I'm the person over here in doTERRA who knows that like, not only is that possible, I know that like way more than that is possible. Does that make sense? But most people, when you ask them, hey, tell me like where you want to get, most people aren't going to be like, well, where I want to get is like beyond what's possible, right? That's just not how we think. So if I say, okay, Marcy, like, that's awesome. I know you want to like create some supplemental income, but like beyond that, like what if anything was possible? Like, what's your dream like for you and your family? And if I actually then create space for Marcy to come into that space and actually talk with me and dream with me a little bit and talk about like, well, yeah, like if anything was possible. So I am literally helping Marcy expand her own vision of what's possible in her life and for her family. And I'm enrolling her into that vision in the enrollment call. Does that make sense? Okay. So tell me this, what do you think happens? How does Marcy start to view me? If I'm someone that helps her increase and expand her vision of what's possible, how does that feel to Marcy? Like, what do you think that like the experience she starts to have of me is? Yeah, she's inspired, right? Like that's leadership. Do you see that's what leaders do? Leaders help people expand their vision of what's possible. Well, that's what you're doing on an enrollment call. And guess what people want to do with people like that? They want to follow them. I can tell you the people that have poured into me in my life, the people I most want to follow in my life and have most wanted to follow are the people that came to me. And like when my vision was like this, like they had the courage to like lift my chin up and be like, no, dude, this is what's possible for your life. This is what's possible for your family. And I'm like, really? Like, okay. Like if you, I don't maybe quote completely believe it, but if you say that's what's possible, like I want to follow you to get there. Can you guys see that? We're not serving anyone by letting them like only see what's possible based on what they can currently see as possible, right? We're also not asking them to like dream up something that's like not even in the realm of reality, but like we're challenging people to think and get present. That's the best way I know how to say it is like help them get present to what's possible. Does that make sense? Yeah, I love that, Marcy. I love the dream drop.
Well, and I love, Chris, that it gives people hope One thing that I found to be honestly a differentiating factor in the people that are successful in doTERRA and the people that aren't is the people that are successful actually have enough hope and belief that they show up and do the work. The people that feel kind of like, well, I could work really hard, but I don't even know if it will matter or make a difference because, you know, and they think of all of the things that could go wrong or all of their insecurities. And so they kind of go through some motions and do some things, maybe post some things online because that's safer behind a screen. But the ones that truly feel hopeful, they're excited about this work and they're passionate. And so they show up that way with the hope and excitement. And I've met plenty of people that, you know, exactly what you're describing, they're not sure what to do. They've had a positive experience. They love the oils. They love the thought of residual income. And so they're kind of like, okay, you know, if you know what you're doing and you tell me what to do, like, I'm ready, I'll go. And sometimes they'll say, are you sure this is going to work? Are you sure? But when they believe and they feel that hope because you've painted or expanded that picture of what's possible, I think that's one of the most powerful things that you can do in this business. And so I'm so glad that you're speaking to it.
Yeah, because imagine the difference of enrolling that person. Like, let's say I do enroll Marcy. Can you see the difference of me enrolling Marcy to help her create some supplemental income for her family versus me enrolling Marcy to what's possible? I just enrolled two different human beings, literally. It's the same person. And doesn't mean that just because we're going to like help her get clear on what's really possible that we're not going to still deliver on her first goal of helping her make some supplemental income. But it's like you enroll a person from a different energy and from a different commitment from day one. When we enroll, like based on what's possible. And you know, like you guys, I think if most of you have heard me talk about the marriage counselor that I met with. And I think, did I share a little bit of that last week? About Gordon. See, when I was sitting there with Gordon that time, and he took the time to get to know my story, and I was in a really rough place in my life, Gordon didn't let me just speak to what I could see as possible. Because when he asked me, like, well, what do you want for your marriage? Like, what do you want for your family? I was like, just to survive. Like, that's what I could see as possible, right? And Gordon could have sold me and enrolled me into marriage counseling just on the desire to survive. And Gordon was like, well, okay, we can do better than survive. Like I would love to hold out like the hope that you and your wife could actually be like best friends and have the most amazing relationship ever. Like, what if that was possible? And I was kind of like, really? Like, well, I don't know. I never even thought of that as possible. And from the very first time I met Gordon, he started to speak possibility into what was possible, truly possible. And it was inspiring. I was like, dude, if you say that's possible, like, I want to follow you there. So like we owe it to people, and it still doesn't mean we're going to work with them yet. Like, we still don't even know, but like, we're still serving them by like helping them expand their vision. Like, we're helping them get present to what's possible, like really what's possible beyond what they can currently see. Does that make sense? Any questions on that? Okay. So now that we've asked somebody, so again, the transition might be like, I might be like, hey, Bree, thank you so much for sharing that. Like, it's awesome to get to know a little bit more about you and just so I can have some perspective and context. So now what I want to talk about is like, what's the vision for what you want to create for you and your life and your family, right? And Bree starts telling me, and then I'm like, okay, that's awesome. Like, what about beyond that? Like, what if anything was possible? What's the dream, right? And I'm going to get her to that place of like seeing that with me, okay? Now it's like, okay, we know where you want to go. We know what we've expanded that possibility. And now a great question that I might ask Bree is like, okay, Bree, so like, tell me like, what's in the way of us getting you there right now? Like, what's not working for you? Okay. So we've just had this conversation on what's possible. And now we're going to bring it back to the reality of like, okay, and like, let's be real. Like, what's in the way? Like, what's not working? Where are you stuck? Now, what's interesting is just like most people can't see what's possible, most people can't see the cost to them being stuck. They can see where they're stuck. They can't see what it's costing them. Does that make sense? And most people don't take action just because of something that's not working. They only take action when they start to see the cost of it. Look, if we all took action because of something wasn't working, well, none of us would have anything not working, because as soon as we knew it wasn't working, we just go fix it. But most of us don't go do things and fix things because we know it's not working. It's not until the cost becomes painful enough. Well, how do we get present to the cost? Usually someone that cares about us points it out, helps us see it. I had a mentor one time that told me most people, he's a transformational coach. He's like, Chris, I'm in the business of transformation. And I'm telling you right now, most people don't change. And I'm a transformational coach. And he said, because most people aren't intensely curious enough or insanely in pain enough to actually change. Most people are just in the middle of pain and enough pain and enough curiosity to do something about it. So it's either an incredible amount of pain, right? Like the cost, or this intense curiosity around what could be. And that's what we're actually doing in this enrollment narrative, is we're helping them get present to both ends of that spectrum. So the curiosity around what could be possible, and then the pain around the cost. And to put the perspective of the cost in perspective, it'd be like if I was to, you guys tell me the difference in these two scenarios. I walk into a gym and the person up front greets me. It's like, hey, what brought you into the gym today? Like, oh, I'm looking at the membership. Okay, like, yeah, let's sit down. Let's talk about it a little bit. And this personal trainer is like, so tell me about your goals, right? Like, where do you want to get? It's like, oh, I'd love to lose 20 pounds. It's like, okay, like, that's awesome. Yeah, so like, what's not working, right? Well, it's not working is I just have a hard time like staying committed to a workout routine. Okay. And so the personal trainer's mind is like, okay, I know where he wants to get. I know where he's stuck. And there's this gap between the two. I'm going to sell my personal training as the solution, as the bridge between the two, right? The problem is he didn't help me see what was possible beyond what I already thought was possible, which is losing the 20 pounds. Now, if he'd have dug a little bit more and he was like, okay, well, like what, I know you want to lose 20 pounds, but like, why? Like, what would you do if you lost the 20 pounds? Like, what would really be possible? It's like, well, what I'd really love to do, and I don't even, like, I've given up on the hope of it. Like, I'd really love to get back doing triathlons. But right now, I mean, I just want to lose 20 pounds. Like, okay, but you're telling me the goal, the dream, like what's possible is like, you'd love to do traits. Like, yeah, that's what I'd love to do. And it's like, okay, so tell me like where you're stuck is like not being able to work out consistently and it's keeping you from losing those 20 pounds. But let me ask you this. What's the cost if you don't lose the 20 pounds? Ooh, now we're getting somewhere. Can you guys see that? Just that question, like the guy already knows he needs to lose 20 pounds. There's no usefulness in even really talking about it. You got to start there. And you know what my experience has been when I ask, what do you think that guy's going to say when you ask him what's the cost of not losing the 20 pounds? My experience is he's actually going to sit there for a second because it's not something he's actually even thought of because it's so painful. He's probably going to sit there and be like, it's a great question. I haven't even thought about that. I guess the cost is like, last year I needed to lose 10. This year I need to lose 20. Next year I'll probably need to lose, like the cost is like my long-term health. The cost is walking my daughter down the aisle. The cost. Okay, you tell me which scenario is the guy more committed to actually take action and do something about his health? The one where we just found out he wanted to lose 20 pounds and like he struggles with working out every day? Or the one where it's like, we know he wants to get back to doing triathlons and the cost is he might not walk his daughters down the aisle? Yeah. But when you help people get present to the possibility and the cost at the same time and they see it, it's like, I want that and I don't want this and I want to do something about it. See, like just like the marriage counselor who spoke possibility into my life, I knew that my marriage was a wreck and I knew that like things weren't great and we were going to get divorced and I had these two beautiful little boys and this amazing wife. Well, at the time I didn't see her as amazing, but when he helped me see the cost, he was like, okay, you do realize like what you're about to set in motion with the choices you're making. And he kind of painted the picture of my life and what it would look like 20, 30, 40. And he painted pictures of my kids' milestones of me being there with a new wife and my wife being there with her new husband. And my kids always having to make decisions of like where they do, holidays and like, like, and how awkward it would be. Like, and he's like, and he's like, and just so you know, like when you drop your kids off on Fridays and your wife's not home, so the new dad comes out to greet them and like, and you see your kids going with their new dad. And I was like I was more committed than ever in the history of my life to do something about like my marriage and my relationship with my wife. Because I got present to the cost. And it's not like people aren't aware. And here's another thing. The reason why I don't think there's a lot of usefulness in just asking someone what's not working is because they already know what's not working. It's not like I walk into a gym and I'm like, you know what? I thought I was in pretty good shape, but now I'm in here around all these healthy people. I think I need to lose 20 pounds. It's like, no, I know I need to lose 20 pounds before I ever go into the gym. That's why I'm there, right? So, and the other reason, and here's another reason why it's so, in my opinion, it's so essential that we uncover the possibility and the cost, is because without doing it, I don't really know if I can help them. Does that make sense? And remember the promise I made to them. What's the promise I made to them at the very beginning of the call? When I framed up the call, I made them a very bold promise. And what was it? Someone can type it, or you guys take yourself off mute if you want, just say it. Because this is so important that we got to always remember that we've made a promise to them. And we're going to be authentic to it. We're going to deliver on it. Yeah. Tell them if we can help them or not. So that's what's going on for me, is I'm listening to like where they want to get, and I'm helping them see what's possible, and I'm listening to where they're stuck, and then I'm helping them see the cost. And in that, I'm like, man, can I really help this person? Can I really make a difference for them? See, but guess what I used to be thinking about when they were talking in meetings and sales conversations? I used to be thinking about what I was going to say next. I used to be thinking about what I was going to ask next, right? And now I'm really trying to ask, like, can I help them? Do I truly believe I can make a difference for them? So this is at the moment where you actually get to deliver on the promise, because after hearing this is where you, in 99% of the time, you're going to know, like, yeah, based on where they truly want to get and what's really possible, and based on like where they're stuck and what it could cost them, I know that I can help them. Here's another thing that you guys, that's interesting is I didn't realize how much uncovering the cost for someone would actually compel me to want to help them more. I originally designed that to just help them get present to the cost, but it was crazy as I would sit there and listen to someone talk about the cost and them get present to it. I started to feel this greater commitment to like, yeah, we can't have you experience that cost. The cost is too great. Like, it gave me even more of a commitment to enroll them, not from a place of like, got to enroll you because I want to help you avoid that cost. Does that make sense? Like, I'm so committed to helping you. Now, one of the things that's interesting is, so what I'd love to do at this point is, after I've asked them about the possibility and I've asked them about the cost, then I would hope that in most situations, you and I both are actually taking notes on everything they're saying, because it helps us actively listen better. But it's also, there's something really powerful that I do right here, is at this point in time in the conversation, I'll say, thank you for sharing that. I just want to make sure that I like really heard you and I really captured what it is you were saying. And I go repeat back word for word with my notes what they've said. I said, so you said you wanted to get here. We then talked about what was truly possible, and here's what we talked about. You said this is what's not working for you and where you feel stuck, and this is what you feel like the cost would be. Does it sound about right? Did I capture that? What do you think most people say at that point? Just after that, after you recap everything you've heard them say, what do you think most people's reaction is?
They feel heard.
Yeah. Most people, Renee, are like, you captured all that? Yeah, they're shocked. Like Bree said, they really are. They're like, wow, you captured all that? We just underestimate how much people don't feel heard and seen in the world we live in today. Right? And so then when they say, yeah, you captured it. That's right. That's when I say, okay, you know what? Like, I want you to know, like, I can help you. Or however you're comfortable saying it. This is where you're actually going to be like, yeah, the first thing that I want you to know is that based on everything you've shared with me, like, I know that I can help you get where it is you want to go. Or, and I have this in the script here, but there's a couple different ways you can do it. It's like, based on everything you've shared with me, like, I know that I can help you get where it is you want to go, because I've helped people in a very similar situation to you already on my team. Or I know I can help you get where it is you want to go, because where you're wanting to go is exactly where I've gone and where I've been. Or at this place, it's like, hey, based on everything you shared with me, I don't think I'm the best person to help you, but here's what I would recommend, and here's some advice that I have for you. So do you guys remember at the very beginning of the call, or sorry, at the very beginning of last time's call, when I talked about one of the powers of this framework is when we show up with the intention of no place to get? This is where that switches. So what I tell people is there's no place to get until there is. And the minute there is a place to get is when you know you can help them. Because like Lisa said, now if I know I can help them, I feel like I have a moral and ethical obligation to like enroll them now. But see, it's not like I'm enrolling them because I pre-planned that no matter what they said, I was going to sell them and enroll them. It's like, no, I really have a place to get now because I know that I can help you. And you want to know the other thing that's interesting is like how many people never say something like in an enrollment conversation. I've listened in on hundreds of sales calls over the years, my own and others. And it's shocking to me how many people on an enrollment call will never say, even when they know it, they'll never tell the prospective client or customer like, yeah, I can help you. I know I can help you. It's just such simple language, but it's so profound and so powerful because like that hope that Melina was talking about, that's probably what, if I'm struggling, if I'm a mom or a dad or a business owner or like whatever, if I'm struggling with anything that doTERRA could help me with from a health perspective or confidence or financially, I would love to have someone just boldly and calmly and confidently tell me like, yeah, I can help you. Like that alone would feel so good to me. Like, yeah, I know I can help you. The other thing that I've been thinking a lot about lately, I've always believed that this is the most powerful way to sell and enroll is through connection and authenticity and like this framework and this narrative. But especially in today's times, how many of you would agree right now people are searching for connection and certainty and truth and real more than any other time in the history of our lives? So what I think is interesting, and I can't stop thinking about this all week, is I believe that when there's an element of predictability and certainty in our lives, like the economy's good, my job's pretty good, business is good, my family's good, my kids are in school, like all the things that we like used to take for granted that maybe we're not today. But when all of that's just kind of humming and rolling, I actually believe we don't feel like we need connection as much. We still value it, but it's almost like the certainty and the predictability of life can like somewhat replace connection, and we don't even realize we're missing it. But when you take away certainty and you take away reliability and you take away predictability, people crave connection more than ever because it fills the void and the gap of the lack of certainty and predictability in their lives. Because I may not be able to predict a lot of things, but the one thing I can be certain on is the connections I have with people. Just know that like in your teams, even your leaders, in your enrollment calls, like people are searching for truth and real and connection now more than they ever have. And you guys just happen to be in an amazing business that can deliver that in ways that lots of businesses can't. Okay, so any questions on that part of the possibility, the cost, and that leading to us, then we recap what they've said, and then that leads to like either we know at that point we can help them or not. Any thoughts or questions or comments on?
I have a quick question.
Yep.
So where you get to that point where there kind of shifts and you let them know, hey, I know I can help you with this. And you've said just something that kind of stuck out to me. You said that you've listened to hundreds and hundreds of calls, and most people aren't saying that. Why do you think that is? This is a little bit off, but do you think it's just like a bold statement where people feel like they might be too cocky, or do you think it's insecure in their leadership, or is it, I don't know if I want to commit to helping them because that sounds like a lot of work. Like, where do you think we're losing that?
I would say yes to all three, literally. Okay. I think there's a little bit of that going on in every enrollment conversation of like, man, is that just too bold? Like, tell someone that. Or I don't want to come off cocky or pushy, or it's a little, or it's like, can I help them? Like we doubt ourselves and we don't know if we can really do it, even though we don't believe we can do it, even though we probably know we can. And then the third one, what was the third one you said?
It sounds like a lot of work. I mean, there are some times where I'm like, do I want to help?
Yeah.
Like this person sounds like it might be a lot of work.
And that's Melina though. That's why we've gone so deep before I make that commitment. That's why we've gone so deep on the connection and this, is because I'm filtering for two things. I'm filtering for one, I want to help them, because not wanting to help someone is not wrong. Like, look, there's something really profound and powerful about you realizing like, yeah, this is not a person that aligns with me. Like so far what I've uncovered on the call is that like, so when I say if it was a scenario where you're like, yeah, I don't think I'm the best person to help you, that may not just be because I don't believe I could help them get where they want to go. I might have confidence I could help them get where they want to go, but it's more from a place of like, I just don't think I want to serve you. Not that you would say that, like you wouldn't, but you might just say, like, I'm not the best person to help you. But I really think, Melina, in most cases when it is someone we want to help, yeah, I think it just, again, it's like I talked about last week a little bit. We're just afraid to acknowledge our greatness. We're just afraid to acknowledge that we matter. We're afraid to say things out loud like, I matter. I'm worthy. I make a difference. I'm amazing at what I do. We think somehow that's selfish or arrogant or egotistical. And I actually believe the complete opposite. I'm point of like, if I ever hear someone saying like, I don't matter and I don't think I have what it takes and I'm not enough, I'm almost like, how dare you? Like, who do you think you are? And they'll be like, what do you mean? I thought I was being humble. And I'm like, that's a cop out. Like if you say like, I'm not worthy and I'm not good and I can't do anything, think about all the people in your life that have ever poured into you. What does that say about them? Yeah, their contributions to your life obviously don't matter. I mean, and if you have a faith of any kind, like whoever your faith is in, then that would mean like they don't matter either. And then we've been taught that it's like really incredibly, I actually think, and I think saying and acknowledging out loud that, you know, yeah, I'm amazing. Like I have something to offer people. I can help you. I actually think that's one of the most selfless things you can do, because it takes a lot of courage and a lot of humility to actually admit that. But what you're really saying in that is you're not saying I matter and I make a difference and I'm amazing from a place of like, look at me. You're saying I matter, I make a difference, I'm amazing at what I do. And what that really means is I have a great responsibility to serve a lot of people and help a lot of people get where they want to go. It's like the Marianne Williamson quote. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so other people don't feel insecure around you, right? That quote where she says, it's our light, not our darkness that most frightens us. And so I love that you bring that up, Melina, because yeah, it did hit me. It's like, why do I never hear people saying that? Why do I never hear people on enrollment calls or sales calls just telling the truth and be like, I can help you. And here's exactly how I would help you.
And that's what builds that confidence too, is okay, like if you're just trying to sell everyone, but if you first listened to what I needed, you connected with me, you understand, of course you really know you can help me because you listened to me. But if you just go in talking about how great you are and, you know, blah, 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 how you're one of the top sales reps or whatever else, then you lack that connection. So I'm not even sure if you can help me, you just have a big head. But if you, with the framing that you did, I really love that. And it kind of opens up the space to say, I really believe I can help you. Or if there's someone, you know, a little more complicated, maybe that personal trainer would be like, you know what, I have a great trainer for you that specializes in working with women and whatever your goals are. Yeah. And, you know, kind of referring.
Yeah. Refer him to someone in your sideline that you don't like. I'm just kidding. But it's so true, Melina. It's like, I really feel like I have to earn the right to tell them though that I can help them.
Yeah.
Like, who am I to show up to a call? I've done nothing to find out where it is they want to get in their life and what their vision of what's possible is. And yet I'm going to jump on and be like, let me tell you how this is the best thing for you and like how I can help you. And it's like, you don't even know me. Do you know my name? Right. It's like, and so I really feel like we have to earn the right to be able to tell them that. And then some language that I'm going to share with you, probably not today's call, but how we end a call is in the, like, once we actually do the enrollment, it's like, okay, look, like we're going to get into an agreement right now. I told you earlier in this call that I could help you. And I told you exactly how I was going to help you get there. But I want to make sure that we have an agreement that you're also committing and you're committed to doing the part to let me help you get there. So no expectations. Like, we're going to get into a really clear agreement of what it looks like to work together. And I can promise you that if you give 100% and I give 100%, it's not a 50-50 win-win. It's 100-100. And we're not keeping score, but we're committed. Like, two committed people can do anything together. Are we in agreement on that? Imagine if you enrolled people that way from the get-go, right? Like, that's how you closed out the enrollment conversation, is like, yeah, we're doing this. And are you in? But they want, like, what's crazy is, like, sometimes we might say, like, oh, that sounds kind of bold. Well, think about you being enrolled into something. You wouldn't want someone to talk to you that way. I would want someone to look at me and tell me like they could help me. I would want someone to be like, look, I'm going to help you. Like, are you committed to doing this? Because I'm committed to you. Yeah, I would want someone to like tell me that they knew they could make a difference for me.
And really, when we are looking to find, business builders or whatnot, if there's no commitment both ways, then that's when we get into situations where maybe we oversold how much we could help them while they just, they love essential oils and they love the idea of residual income. There's a lot of people that are really committed to the outcome of what you can help them create, but they're not committed to the actual actions that are taken to get there. And so I think that that's a really powerful conversation to have, because they'll show up a lot more when they understand and take you seriously as the leader that's guiding them and leading them. And you are valuable, your time is valuable. So when they see that you're not coming from a place of desperation, which I think a lot of times we approach an enrollment conversation, and when you come from a place of desperation and they feel like you could help anyone that breathes, then they might feel like you need them more than they need you. And, what are you going to give them? Who are you going to put underneath them? And I really like how this actually frames your partnership for years to come, if they are going to be a business builder, or if they are even going to be a product user, or, a wholesale customer. If they're not going to stay on the lifelong vitality, or they're not going to try more than one oil for something that, because we've all had those people that maybe the first oil they tried didn't give them 100% the result they wanted, but they have to try a 2 or 3. And so we really want them to be just as committed to the outcome as we are. And I think this is a really powerful way to do it. But just like you said, you earned the space to do that by connecting first. You can't skip that.
Yeah, you created this space for them to come in, and like you to come in and like be really authentic with each other. And so where I want to go next is, so we framed up the call, we connected with them on their story. We then transitioned that into the possibility and the cost story. And now we're at this place where, let's just say we know we can help them. And we said, like, and we recap everything we've heard them say. It's like, yeah, I know I can help you. And part of the reason I know I can help you is because your story is so similar to someone on my team that I've already helped. Or your story is so similar to mine and my journey. And so now we have 2 options. How many of you have customers and builders, you would say, on your team? It's kind of a clear distinction. Okay. So what I want you guys to do is I want you to come up with, for now, what you think is your best customer story and your best builder story of someone you've supported, right? So the customer story might be someone that was really struggling to feel empowered around their health or their family's health, and they came in like they've had a big win, or someone that like, and if for now you're like, I don't really have a great customer success story of someone on my team or a great builder story of someone on my team yet, then it's your story, right? You're going to use your product story or your builder story. And the reason for that is because we just told them, like, hey, I know I can help you. And the reason I know I can help you is because you remind me so much of like my story. And then we're going to share your story. Or you remind me so much of someone that is on my team that wanted to, had very similar goals for their family around their health. Because what do you think happens when we share a success story of someone we've already helped that has a similar situation to theirs? And it's someone we've helped get to where that person wants to go. What do you think that creates? It brings them hope. If they find it relatable, right? It's relevant to them. Yeah, validates, like, you're not just saying this, like, you've done this for somebody. So I just give all you guys a minute, and I just want you to see if you can come up with one, whether it's your own or someone else's. Think of and just think, for now, you can think a lot more about this later, but think of your best customer story of someone that was really empowered around the oils and the products, and it's just an amazing customer, and they've got a great story. And I don't mean great customer story, maybe they order the most every month. That could be, but someone that's had a real win with the products or empowering themselves around health, and then a great, builder story. Now, what's interesting to me is most entrepreneurs that I work with have success stories, meaning they have stories of people they've already helped. And yet it's really rare that I ever hear them using success stories of current customers or builders in their enrollment conversations. And if you really think about it, what is everything that we work for in this business? Well, everything we're doing and working for is for the success stories, right? And yet we get them, and then I call them liquid gold because we just let them run right through our fingers and down the drain, and we never use them in an enrollment conversation. And there's just this real power, like Bree was saying, to validate and say, like, look, I'm not just telling you I can help you. I want to tell you the story of someone I've helped. Or I'm not just telling you I can help you. I want to tell you my story. And for those of you who I know there's already people on this call right now like, well, I don't have a great success story. And it's like, well, use yours. Yours is enough. Your success story is enough until you have, you know, your first customer success story, your first builder success story. And don't judge it. Some people are like, well, I have a customer success story, but it's not as good as Melina's, or I have a good builder story, but it's not as good as Renee's. Who cares? Like, no comparison. It's your success story, right? Was everyone able to identify a customer story and then a builder story? Who was able to identify a customer story? Okay, Marcy, will you share yours, the customer story? Kind of like what this success story you have, what were they struggling with? And then kind of what kind of win have they experienced?
Okay, I have to say this is a hard one because I have so much, hundreds of success stories, but
yeah.
I'm gonna do one where I had someone come to clean my yard, pain.
Okay, so here's one of the things I want to tell you, the reason this is important. That's what happens to us. So sometimes we have so many success stories that in the moment, if we have to think of one on the fly in an enrollment call or an enrollment meeting, we won't. And it's not because we don't have them, it's just not top of mind.
Yeah.
But when you can have just, okay, I know I've got a lot, but this is my go-to for now. I have one go-to customer story and I have one go-to builder story. That way I only need to ever draw from two options, right? So I can always have one. Okay, keep going.
Yeah, there's so much that sometimes they're all so good that it's hard to know which one to share. But so for me, I'm gonna do a pain one. So I had a guy come and clean out my property with a, what do you call it? Those big machines, the D9s. And before he left, we talked a little bit and he mentioned some pain that he's been dealing with from a car accident 20 years ago. And that no matter what he did and what he does, the pain never goes away. So I gave him some, I said, hold on, I'll be right back. I have something for you. So I ran upstairs, I grabbed him some copaiba and I gave him some deep blue samples. And I told him how to use it. I told him before you go to bed, because his worst is at nighttime when he's trying to sleep. He's in so much pain. I told him rub it on that painful area and take it under your tongue. Put 2 drops under your tongue. And I said 2 drops because I could tell he was really in pain. So usually it's 1 drop. A week later, he comes back to do my yard for something else. It was for making a platform for my piggery. And he's like, you won't believe it. I'm not lying to you. It worked. I have no pain. I need some. Can I buy some right now? I need to buy some for my friend. He has so much pain. So it's just
awesome.
Yeah, just sharing that moment with anyone. It just.
Yeah. So if you're ever, Marcy, talking with someone, right, and their pain in that time, like what's not working for them where they want to get is something around physical health or some type of pain challenge or struggle, you can be like, look, I know I can help you.
Yeah.
Like, I've got to tell you a story about someone that reminds me so much of your situation. And the thing that Marcy did there that was brilliant, that when you guys go to share the success story in an enrollment, you don't want to just share the success. You want to open with the pain and the struggle first.
Yeah.
Then what you did for them. Because if like, let's say Marcy said, yes, this guy came to work on my yard and he had been in a little bit of pain. And so then I gave him this thing in his life. But by her explaining a little bit of the pain and the struggle, it makes that story more relatable and real to the person listening to it. They can actually see themselves in it, right? And then it's like, yeah, it's like he'd been in pain for 20 years. He'd gone to every different type of like specialist and all kinds of solutions. Like it allows that person listening to be like, wow, I can relate to that. And so here's what we did for them and here's what his life looks like now, right? So really when you're sharing a success story, there's 3 parts to it. It's really simple. What wasn't working? What did you do for them? What does their life look like now? Whether it's a customer success story or a builder, what wasn't working? What'd you do for them? What does their life look like now? So Marcy's is like, here's what wasn't working, 20 years in pain, tried everything, what I did for him, gave him some samples, deep blue, copaiba. And then here's what his life looks like now. So now he's able to work. He's paying, like same thing with a builder. If it was a builder and it was like, yeah, so they were struggling to make ends meet every month, or they were miserable in their job. Like I've done that. So here's what I did for them. We laid out a plan. We had them hold a class. We helped them invite people. We started building. Here's what their life looks like now. They're about to replace, their income with their job, or they've completely left it, but painting that picture of what wasn't working, because what that does is it takes the person listening on a little bit of a journey through the lens of your client success story, your customer success story, your builder success story. And they're like, oh, I can relate to that. And I could see how that could be possible. Who had a builder success story? One that comes to mind. I do not, Rafia? Hold on, you're still on mute, Rafia, but it looks like you unmuted yourself, but I can't hear you.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I have a builder success story, and she's actually on this call as well, taking notes for our
Awesome.
team. Yeah. So I met her about 2 years ago. I started my business myself 2 years ago, and I just started. I was doing business for 2 months only, so I didn't know anything, and then here she was, and she was at the job where she was working for 13 years. No advancement, no promotions. People would pick someone else instead of her, even though she was very capable and very knowledgeable. But they picked someone else for another promotion where it was, and she was like, "This is something that I want to try. This is something that I think I could do, and this is something that where I could grow and maybe replace my income." So a long story short, it wasn't easy. She's not a big rank yet, but she's going there, and she quit her job about a year ago. Oh, no, about a month ago. And now she's working from home. She's doing what she likes. She loves what she does. She has a team, and she's growing. And I know that she's going to be amazing.
That's an amazing success story. Now, let me ask you this. How do you pronounce your first name?
Rufia.
Rufia. Yeah. Okay. I was close. Rufia. How often, though, do you share that amazing success story in enrollment calls?
Yeah, I do. Whenever we talk about the business, I talk about her, and people are actually in our community, they know her. And I'm like, did you see Anna? You know that she quit her job? They're like, yeah, that's amazing. Because people know that, quitting a job is something outrageous, because this is you're giving up your paycheck, something that you would always have. And this is something that you don't know what you're going to get, right? We know every month we start from zero, and we don't know how much we're going to get. Right?
See, and this is where I want to kind of bring it full circle. If I tell someone I can help them, and I'm like, I know I can help you. Do you think it's more powerful for me to back that up by talking about the process I would take them through? Or is it more powerful to back that up by telling them a story of someone I've already done it for?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I know I can help you. Your situation reminds me so much of this amazing woman on my team that was exactly where you're at. She was tired of being passed over at her job. She'd been working there for years. She was frustrated with her income. She was frustrated that she couldn't work from home. And she was frustrated by her limited opportunity. And so she wanted to do this, and she believed in me, and I believed in her, and we committed, and here's how we started. Here's what we did. And here's where she's at now. She's quit her job. She's working from home. She's replaced her income, or about to replace her income. It's that's what we can do for you. It's so I see even more possibility, right?
Yep.
So again, I want you guys to be armed with just a builder story and a customer story. And someone might say, well, which one do I share? Well, we're going to listen to them. They're going to let us know which one to share, right? If the thing they're struggling with most and what they want most, and because don't feel like you have to do it all at once. I think sometimes probably in doTERRA, Melina, you correct me if I'm wrong, but there's probably sometimes this pressure of well, they just want to start with an oil, but I also got to start dripping on them the opportunity right now. And it's no, if that's where they're at and where you can serve them, let them start with the oils and trust the process of adding value to them, and they're going to become interested, right? Or if someone's really interested in the business and you're okay, I know you're interested in the business and I know you want to quit your job, but you have to love essential oils as much as I do. And we're going to make sure that happens by the end of this call. It's it's not possible, right? Now, I know that even though they want to do the business, it's still so critical that you have them sample and you start to get the oils in their hands. But like, don't push on them any more than we need to in the beginning, right? Like, let's meet them where they're at. Let's get on their side of the wall, right? If they start with the oils, we have time to introduce them to the business. If they start really focused on the business, we have time to continue to nurture and foster their love for the oils. Okay. It's almost 4 o'clock. I want to pause because I know we've covered a lot. We covered 2 full sections. Any like thoughts, questions, like comments? I'd love to, yeah. Any clarifying questions? Renee?
Clarifying question.
Okay.
So I'm a relationship person, so this is super comfortable for me. And my question is, do you break it up and do it throughout the session that you're talking with them, or do you clump it all together?
What do you mean by that, Renee, when you say break it up or clump it all together?
So is this done during a class? And, you know, do we do it in the beginning before we get started? Like before we get into the agenda, do we get into it with them? Or do we break it up into pieces? At this point in time, we're going to start off with getting to know them and understanding them and see where they're coming from and asking them if they want more. Then do we bring in the customer story or the business story somewhere in between that class?
So my vision for this enrollment narrative is that this is what we would actually use to get people to a class. This is how you would get way more people to get to not just commit to your class, but actually show up, right? We would really, because the thing we might be enrolling them into as a possibility, right, is either the oils or the business. And it's like, and where I want you to start is you got to get to a class. Now, we're going to get there one step at a time, because as soon as we get done with the enrollment narrative training, I want to do a training on our signature framework, which is the framework of how you would take these same elements, but put them into a talk that you would use for a class, an actual presentation. But it has the same elements of like, you open your class. See, one of the things I believe is if you're going to give a class and you're going to give a presentation of any kind, a class, webinar, a women's group that wants you to come speak, we're actually not going to open up with our story, just like we don't in the enrollment narrative. We're going to open up with a story of pain, struggle, or challenge of a customer or builder that a lot of people in that class could find relevant and relatable. That's what we're going to open with. We're going to open with a story that people would be like, wow, like that's me. That's my situation. That's what I want. Right.
Right.
And then we're going to take them on a journey throughout that class of what we did for them and how we helped them and how the oils came into play. And like the whole class is going to be this journey that we take them on, that by the end, they're either like ready to like, yeah, how do I get started? Or again, they've maybe already gotten started. Right. And the class is just like, at the end, they're like, okay, now I'm really ready to like go full steam.
Terrific. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you bet. Great question. Any other questions on the possibility and the cost?
Do you see the question in the chat that says if you're going through their dreams and they seem unsure, they don't really know, like they've never dreamt before, apparently, they can't, their vision is so limited. What is some language you can use to kind of encourage them?
It's actually a great question, Bria. I almost touched on it earlier because you will run into that, right? You'll ask people like, hey, so what is it like, what is it you want to accomplish? Like, what is it you want to create? Like, tell me about, you know, and they'll tell you this and say, okay, so, but what was it? What if anything was possible? Right? Like, what if we could go, like, what if we could do way better than that? Like, what's the dream? And they're like, I don't know. My belief is that that's never true, but I don't know is a really safe way to avoid like putting themselves out there, or it's a really safe way to not like be vulnerable. And if they really were like committed to that, Bree, again, now, if I'm just a salesperson and an enrollment person in this call and someone's telling me like, I don't know what my dream is, I might be like, okay, no problem. We can like, yeah, we can come back to that at some point in time. That's what I would do if I was a salesperson or just an enroller. But remember, what am I on these calls?
Leader.
I'm a leader. Do you think a leader of like a CEO of a company would let one of his team members or her team members off the hook with that kind of response? No. I'm going to use that to like serve them. So if I'm on with you, Bree, and you're like, yeah, I don't know. I don't have any dreams. Like, I don't know. It's like, yeah, what's that like for you? Like, what's it feel like to be in a place in your life where you don't have a dream for your life, where you don't like have any like hope of anything possible? It's a confronting, bold question, but it's like, yeah, let's go there. You know what I mean? And it's like, or I might be like, so, okay, like, thank you for sharing that. Like, I can respect that. And what do you think that's costing you to like not have a dream or a vision for your life? But see, if I'm just selling and enrolling, I'm not going to go there because that's awkward, or that could be, you know. But if I'm a leader, that means I'm committed. Basically, another way, like another thing too, Bree, is I've had people before. I'm like, you know, I start off, I frame up the call. Hey, if I can help you, I will. If I don't, you know, if I can't, I won't. Like, so how does that sound? Great. Yeah. First, I'd love to start. Just like, tell me a little about you. And I've had people before, Bree, that's like, there's nothing interesting about me, or there's nothing, you know, like, or they'll try to tell me as little as possible because it might be uncomfortable for them. Again, if I'm a salesperson or just someone there to enroll, I'll be like, oh, okay, awesome, thanks. And then I'll move on to the next thing. But because I'm a leader, I'm not going to let them off the hook. I'm going to like dig, like or if they try to like brush over the topic and I'm like, hey, so tell me about you, Bree. Like, yeah, so I just really hate my job. And so I just really want to make some extra money. And I want to like, you're already going into the business side of it, right? And I'm like, okay, awesome. So hold on, before we get like, we're going to dive into that, but like, I just want to know about you. Like you, the human being, like Bree. And again, you might try to like side skirt the question and like get by it, but it's like, I'm not letting you off the hook. I don't know if I said this in the last call, but one of the things that I finally woke up to around enrollment, that has me show up to it differently, and when I remind myself, is that who I'm being and how I show up to the enrollment conversation itself is me demonstrating what they can count on me as their leader if they enroll with me. So it's not like I can show up to the enrollment call and be a wuss. And then it's like, okay, I'm going to show up to this kind of like as a wuss, but then if you enroll, I'm going to be super bold and courageous. Right? It's like, no, like if you show up as a wuss, they're probably counting on you to also be a wuss as a leader because you enrolled them that way. But if I enroll from a place of like a courageous, committed leader, I'm already displaying my leadership. It's like, this is what you can count on me if we work together. So I want to close with a story about that very thing. Is that helpful, Bree? Because again, I'm going to use whatever they give me, I'm going to use it. Like, not against them, but I'm going to go there. It's like, yeah, what's it like for you not to have a dream for your life? Like you know what I mean? Like, I'm not just going to like shy away from it. But so one of my favorite stories around this idea of being committed and showing up like a leader, and like, you can count on, this is what you can count on me, you know, and this is what you can count on me if we work together. So a guy that listed our first home, really successful real estate broker here, the first home we ever sold, he told us a story in our listing presentation because he was trying to give us a sense of what we could count on from him. And he said, so I want to tell you a story about what it's like to work with me. He said, a few years ago, I got this call to come on a listing appointment. A lady was listing her house, and it was a type of listing we would have loved to have had. So we went on it, and she told me, she go, okay, before you come over, just know that I'm going to interview 3 other brokers, and I'm not making a decision on the first meeting. So no need to ask for the business because I'm not going to decide on the first visit. He's like, okay, fair enough. They show up, do the meeting goes great. He's asking her like what her goals are and what she wants and the dream. And she's telling him, he's like, pulls out a listing agreement, puts it on the table. And he's like, yeah, so pushes the listing agreement over, slides it over. He's like, yeah, so sign this. Let's get your home listed. Let's get going. Like, make that dream a reality. And she kind of laughs, like thinking he's joking, and pushes it back. And she's like, yeah, like I told you, I'm not going to list my home, you know, on the first visit. So they're talking a little bit more. And she then gets into more of like, yeah, I'm really excited for our next home. And he's like, yeah, so like, let's get you that next home. Let's get this one sold. Pushes the listing agreement back over to her. It's like, let's sign this and get going. And she like he goes, she laughs a little less this time, pushes it back to my side. It's like, I'm not signing the listing agreement. So they talk a little bit more, and he's about to leave and about to say bye. And he pushes it towards her one more time, but like kind of fast and on purpose, a little bit like aggressive. And she kind of like comes back, and he goes, if I push this over in front of you one more time and ask you to sign it, you're going to throw me out of your house? She goes, yeah, maybe. He goes, I totally get that and I respect that. He goes, but here's what I want you to know. You're going to have 3 other real estate brokers come over to this listing appointment. And unfortunately, they're actually going to like do what you told them to do. And they're not going to ask you to sign a listing agreement. But you know what? Those other brokers also aren't going to ask the first person that comes and sees your home to sign a purchase contract on the very first visit. He goes, so just as aggressive as I am in listing your home is how aggressive I'm going to be in selling your home. That's how committed I am to you and like the sale of your house. And I'm thinking like, wow, that's awesome. He's going to tell me that she listed the home. He's like, and she still didn't list the home with me and sign the paperwork. He goes, so I go get in my car, kind of bummed. And as I'm driving away though, before I even get out of the parking lot, she called and said, okay, my husband and I just talked, and yeah, we can tell you're really committed. Come back over and sign the listing agreement. And she didn't meet with the other 3 brokers. But it's like, yeah, you could call that pushy. I call that committed. Now, if he would have gone in without hearing anything about her story, right, and connecting with her, and immediately just started, hey, let's get, yeah, I would say that's pushy, and like you haven't even earned the right to like be that bold, right? But again, he sees that like, I'm a leader. Like I'm here to, like, I'm not a real estate agent. I'm not a real estate broker. I'm a leader. Like I'm here to help these people's dreams come true. So I love that story. Andrea says, how would you approach someone you don't know? Give me more context on that, Andrea. Like
everything you just talked about, it's, how to get to know the person more deeply. But if it's someone that you just met, like, would you actually talk that deep with them, or how would you approach?
Yeah, I love that question, because for me, it doesn't matter if they've proactively reached out to me to want to talk about the business or the oils or the opportunity, or they have been referred to me, or like I just meet them. Like, again, if I meet someone, I'm still always listening and looking through the lens of, can I make a difference for this person? Maybe not even in my business, personally, professionally, right? And so if at any point in time in a conversation, I'm listening to someone and I'm just getting to know them and I'm connecting with them, and something occurs for me like, wow, I could help you. Yeah, I feel like I owe it to them to tell them that. In any area of life, right? Like I recently bumped into someone and met them for the first time, and they were talking about their concerns about homeschool and public school. And I was just like, it really occurred to me, like I could share something with her that could make a difference for her and help her see something. Like, she's a mom who's really worried about, she doesn't think she has what it takes to monitor her 8-year-old child online all day, every day, and like not be able to live her life. But she's also worried about her ability to homeschool. She doesn't think she has what it takes. And I'm like, oh, trust me, if you can sit by your 8-year-old for 7 hours of school every day online, you can definitely homeschool for 2 or 3. And I was like, I feel like I could serve her and make a difference for her. And she didn't ask me, she didn't seek me out for homeschooling advice. She didn't but it would be no different in my business. I've met people before, and it's just like, in listening to them and connecting with them, it occurs to me like I could help them. I'll share that with them for sure. And I get what you're saying though. The context is a little bit different if someone sought me out versus like, I've just met someone.
That's why I love how we put it into a framework, and we put it into that worksheet I put in the comments, but it's also on our team page, because sometimes I'll have these conversations with someone that scheduled a discovery call with me, or sometimes I'm having this conversation with somebody that I met at the pool and their kid is playing with my kid. And then they start talking about, they're whatever. I had the lady that was talking about how they were there to recover from surgery, that her husband's pain. And so like when you can connect with somebody, things can come out. You can then, sometimes it's appropriate to have a conversation. Then sometimes it's an appropriate time to schedule a different call where you can actually go in and dive in more. And then sometimes I've met, I like where Chris said, if you can serve them in any way. I've met entrepreneurs that are struggling with just being burnt out. And I've offered them tools or connected them to people that could help them outside of doTERRA, but that generally most of the time kind of comes back around with like a thank you, or this has helped, or it kind of keeps a conversation going where they're seeing that I'm genuinely interested in helping them. So you'll have to be able to kind of take the context as whether you're trying to get somebody to, you're enrolling them into accepting a sample. Like that's an enrollment conversation where they really want to understand that you're there to serve them. Or you're enrolling them into attending a class like Chris was talking about. Or you can frame the class like Bree mentioned at the beginning, where at the beginning of the class, you're talking about your intention for the class. And if it's a smaller class with a couple people, you could probably get to know them a little bit. It's not as effective for someone to really deeply go into their story, but it does help you connect a little bit more in the class. So I like that the framework you can kind of take, and like Renee was mentioning, sometimes it might be across two conversations. It might be across, you know, you picked up some pieces when you connected, but you can go back to that when you're going through the build guide and maybe a business overview. So that's going to be for you to kind of, don't feel like you have to cram like, okay, we're on step 3. Hold on, don't hang up yet. I've got like 3 more steps. You have to be able to move fluidly. And what I like about what Chris said is have your customer story and have your business story. And one concept he shared with me when I started working with him is you kind of need to fill a well with stories. So you want to fill your well with getting so fluid in these scripts or conversations that you can just drop them in where they make sense and you can pull a story. So on the form site that I have you guys submitting each week, this week I'm actually going to have you also submit your customer story and your business builder story, because I want you guys to really get comfortable with having at least one. Obviously, if that person was talking about pain, sharing that pain story would really make sense. If it's a mom that's just struggling to lost her identity, then maybe you might want to share a different story that actually made sense versus the guy that came to work on your yard, right? So you'll want to pull from there. But I want you guys to have those and submit them on the forum site this week. And I did want to announce that for submitting the forms last week, Eileen Mitnick is the one that won the class in the box. So I'll send that out to Eileen. I'll message you, or my assistant will message you and get your shipping address. And then Tiffany Durr is the one that won free access to Chris's online program. Remember, we're going to be giving these giveaways every week. And then at the end of the 4 weeks, Chris actually said we'd have one winner where he would sit down and just focus on you and your story and how you would refine that and kind of custom create that for you, which again, he doesn't even sell that. You can't even buy that. So that's an amazing offer. His time is incredibly valuable. Really high level entrepreneurs are trying to get on his schedule. So we're really grateful for Chris, the time that you've taken to talk us through this. The feedback's been great. And I think the better we can get at connecting and doing our job to serve other people, the bigger impact we're going to make.
Totally. No, I love it. And it's one of my favorite conversations. And obviously I love doTERRA and everything it stands for. And again, don't forget that like my famous closing line, that is like how I enroll everyone and everything I do when I feel like it's time to do that. It's like, yeah, so like we should work together. And people are like, no, it's not. It's got to be more complicated than that. And I'm like, no, that's what I say to everyone. That's how I officially extend the invitation, is like, yeah, like I enrolled someone yesterday on the very first time we ever spoke. I followed the enrollment narrative. Never met this person. Very first time we spoke, went through the whole thing, knew I could help her, told her, and then at the end, and it was only because my sales guy was booked and I took the call. And at the end, her name was Christine. And I just said, yeah, Christine, you know what? Like, based on everything you shared, again, like I can help you. Like, we should just work together. You should go through our 90-day coaching program. She's like, yeah, I think you're right. I want to do that. Let's go. It's just like, yeah, we should just work together. Okay. One last thing I do want to give you to Andrea. This is something I have used to proactively reach out to people that I maybe quite don't know yet, or haven't asked me to like tell them about like my business. But if there's someone that I observe and I'm like, man, they would be awesome in this business, or they would love the oils, which is usually like one of that. Those are the two categories we would think of someone in, right? Like we think of someone like, man, I know they would love the oils, or I know that they're struggling with this thing in their health and I know they could use the oils, or it's like, man, they would be so awesome in this business. here's what I reach out to people like that with. I reach out and I say like, you know what? I've been thinking a lot about you and thinking about my business. And I just have this, like, I just really have a strong feeling that there's something that I could do to help you and your family. Would it be interesting or meaningful to you if we like had a conversation about that? I don't think I've ever had someone be like, nah. And if they did, that'd be fine. Like, but literally, like that's all I was like, you know, I've been thinking a lot about you and just like thinking about my business, what I know about my business, what I know about you and your family. It's like, I just have this feeling there's something in my business or with my business that could really help you or you might find interesting. Like, would it be interesting and meaningful if we had a conversation about that? So yeah, that's another way, Andrea, that if you didn't know someone. Okay, you guys are awesome. Thanks for having me again.
Thank you so much, Chris. And we'll see you guys next week.
Okay. Bree, yes.
So much.
Thank you so much.
I'm gonna answer Bree's question. Yeah, that's what like, yeah, it's just like, is that what you're asking? Is that like asking permission? Yeah, totally. Because I don't want to just ever just cold call someone and be like, hey, what are you up to? And then like try to sneakily like find my way into like having the enrollment conversation without them knowing we're having one, right? Now, that's also though, I've had plenty of enrollment conversations where I was never intending to have an enrollment conversation, but just by listening and being present and like, I'm also not going to shy away from one if it's like there, right? Like if the opportunity is there. Or sometimes I'll sense that like in a conversation with someone and I'm getting to know someone, I'll sense that there's an interest and I'll use that as like the opportunity right there to be like, hey, like there's just some things about your family you've said or some things about like your business and your work that I find really fascinating. And knowing what I know about my business, I think there's some things you might find really interesting about my business and I could help you. If it'd be interesting or meaningful for you, we could set up a time to have another conversation about it. And I've had people be like, yeah, or I've had people be like, well, I'm not going anywhere. If you have time right now, right?
So using the word interesting a lot. So use that word.
Yeah.
Like interesting. Yeah.
Now that you're saying that, I'm like, it's interesting. I'm using that word interesting a lot. It's unintentional, but because it's also like, to me, it's kind of an easy, soft way of just like, hey, would it be interesting and meaningful at all to you? To me, that's more natural than saying like, would you want to know more about it?
Would it be okay if I shared this with you?
Yeah. Or it's like, yeah, would it be okay if I told you about it? Or, you know, do you want to know more about it? To me, it's just like
when we say, would it be okay if I shared something with you? It sounds like, I feel personally, it sounds quite salesy, but when you say interesting, I think like, oh, what's interesting?
Yeah. No, it is a little bit. It's like, hey, is it okay if I share this with you?
That's
right?
like they're doing you a favor.
Yeah. Or like the classic, like I can smell a network marketer from a mile away. If anyone ever calls me, it's like, hey, I have this opportunity I want to talk to you about. I'm like, dude, come on. You're gonna have to do better than that with me. Right. It's like, but think of the difference of someone's like, hey, could I share something with you? Or, hey, I have an opportunity I want to tell you about, versus someone calling, it's like, hey, I've just been thinking about you, thinking about my business. And I have this feeling there's something that you would find useful in this and that could help you. Would it be interesting and meaningful to you if we had a conversation about it? And it's like Melina said, it's not like I know, it's like I'm giving you the opportunity to actually tell me like, yeah, that would be interesting and meaningful to me.
Perfect.
Again, I just want to use as human, natural, conversational language as possible. Like the goal of all this is to have a conversation. The goal of it isn't to make it feel like it's an enrollment or make it feel like they're doing something for us. Like if I could just put every single person in the world, if I could have them conduct all their enrollment conversations around campfires, their closing percentages would go through the roof. Because around a campfire, you're human. You're just normal. You're just having real conversations with people. And then we get in the business world and we like freeze up and we get all rigid and like robotic. And it's like, no, just don't forget to be a human and talk like one. That's a great question, Bree.
I think, like I have a lot of friends in network marketing that aren't doTERRA, and it's all very much like the third line. If I shared a video with you, would you watch it? Or if I shared this with you, or can I share that? And it sounds like they're just reading from page 3 of the manual. And I'm like, every time I hear it, I'm like, oh, I hope I don't sound like that, because I'm just like, oh no, they want me to buy something. So I think like trying to find like unique language that portrays that, but isn't like salesy, scripted.
Yeah. What's so crazy about it is like, we really do talk to people in a business setting in a way that's completely different than we would ever talk in any other setting. Like we would never get together with some friends or just meet someone for the first time in like the line at the grocery store and talk to them the same way we talk to. But that's actually how people connect. People want to be talked to in just a normal, genuine human way. Yeah, it's like, how creepy would it be if you were at a grocery store and in line, someone's like, hey, if I sent you a video, would you watch it? It's like, but we do that stuff to people all the time in network marketing. It's like, call a buddy like, hey, I haven't talked to you in 11 months, but hey, if I sent you a video, would you watch it? And then after you watch it, I'm going to call you back and talk about it. It's like, what? And then they do watch the video and they're like, oh my gosh, like this is, I don't want to do it this way. This is awkward. But yeah.
That seems more like a predator. We are not predators. We are people.
But and what's interesting though, sometimes we can be that way without, we're not trying to be, but it comes off that way to people. And it's like, it hurts us, you know, but great questions, Bree. Great. Yeah, that's awesome. Okay. You guys are amazing. I'm gonna let you run.
All right. Thank you so much, Chris. We'll see you guys next week.
Okay. See you, everybody.
See ya. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.